Turn off your cell phones!
Okay. So if we can, let's just start with the young lady here in front. Give us your name, where you going, where are you originally from, where are you going to school?
Great. My name is Selena Rosales. I am from San Antonio, Texas, and I attend the University of Texas at Austin.
My name is Stephen Davis. I am from Baytown, Texas, and I go to Sierra Boston State University in Nacogdoches, Texas.
My name is Keenan Chason, and I too attend SFA, and I'm from Richmond, Texas.
My name is Shelby Gilliland. I'm originally from Frisco, Texas, and I too go to Stephen F. Austin State University.
I'm Courtney Fugler. I go to Tarleton State University and I'm from Greenville, Texas.
I'm Miranda West. I go to Abilene Christian University and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
I'm Andrew Bullard. I also go to Abilene Christian University and I'm originally from Clayville, Texas.
I'm Tyler George. I'm from Round Rock, Texas, and I go to Texas State University.
All right, so we only got one Yankee in the bunch. Did you, how many of you knew each other before you came here today for this weekend?
Just
the
Stephen
Austin bunch. Okay,
Yeah,
so everybody else is new friends. So while we're talking on that, where are you and what are you doing here? Since they don't know, I know. Folks watching don't know.
So
Finalists for the...
we are intern finalists for the multicultural internship with the Texas Nonprofit Theaters. And so we are being interviewed for several different positions for various theaters, nonprofit theaters, and community theaters throughout the state of Texas.
And where are we at right now?
We're in Louisville, Texas at the TNT annual conference.
Having a good time so far?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has anything impressed you, or did you find something you did not expect to find when you got to the conference?
The people here are really friendly and just really want to get to know you, and the workshops here are like also really great because you get to like learn a lot from like the different people, and like I don't know, that's really cool for me, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the amount of dedication that people put into nonprofit theater is really awesome to see.
It's really great being around people who just love doing theater as their job, not necessarily teaching it, but just being around it and doing it, which is not something you get a lot in like college, because a lot of people look at you weird and say, oh, you're a theater major?
I need to do that.
Yeah, what's your second job?
Yeah.
Back row over to the left. What's your? I can't see your name tag. Tyler, speak up.
I agree. We went to some great workshops this morning. I learned a lot. It's very diverse. We've learned about theater management and some acting things and just all of the nuts and bolts of running theater companies as well as the basic acting and performance aspect. So that's what I like about it so far.
So everybody here is going to become a rich and famous actor, or rich and famous director, or rich and famous writer.
All of the above.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah. So where do you see your? Well, let's say how many are sophomores, juniors? We got
I'm a sophomore.
Sophomore.
sophomore,
Junior.
and the rest are juniors.
So just me and Andrew over here.
Okay. Well, 5 years from now, where are you going to be?
New York City.
New York City?
Yeah.
I get that answer a lot.
I want to be in Dallas, and I want to anywhere I can get hired.
Good job.
Probably in this area for me because that's where my family is and where I just want to get my roots started. So.
I really want to go to Chicago. That's something that I would like to do.
I'd like to pursue a master's degree.
Right.
I'm a free spirit, so I'll go wherever.
Well, what got you interested in theater to begin with? Is it something you started, when you were like kindergarten, hitting high school, got bit when you started college?
I can go because I have tons. When I was a little kid, I'd always do neighborhood shows and direct them, and my mom made this Peter Pan costume for me, so I always did little shows in the living room and whatnot. But one of the biggest things I think that pulled me into theater was Singing in the Rain, and that movie was just my family was all the classics, and so that was one of the first movie musicals I ever saw, and I was just so drawn by the make 'em laugh number, and that's just like all I wanted to do. So that was how I got this.
My mom had to push me into it, which is funny because she's not a part of theater at all, but apparently I was a very theatrical child. But I wanted to be in band, and I wanted to play the trombone. But my arms were too short to play the trombone, and so my mom made me go into theater, and I was in my very first show in 6th grade. I did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream, and I played a fairy named Fig, because my teacher named all the fairies, and I have a bad word, so I'm still losing, so thanks, Mom.
I actually wanted to be a music major. In high school and middle school, I was in choir, did a bunch of their competitions. But then I started realizing that I like to direct. So I would help my high school choir teacher kind of direct some of the scales and the warm-ups we would do inside of the choir room. And I kind of just realized, though I like to sing and I still have a passion for music, I didn't find it super appealing to me to proceed as a goal once I graduate college. And then I started thinking what my interests were, and I really enjoyed helping my teacher out. So I was like, I like directing, I also like musicals. So I was like, let's combine those two and try to focus on directing theater.
Well, theoretically, I made my theatrical debut when I played Baby Jesus when I was 2 weeks old.
All right, we got a veteran in the group.
But really it started, I went to a private school from like pre-K through 6th grade, and in 6th grade, like, you didn't get a choice of electives, like you did each elective just on alternating days, so like you had to do a theater class, and we did a production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I played the huntsman, and that was like my first show. And then when I transferred to public school after that, my mom told me to take choir, but then because of like a weird scheduling conflict, I had to choose either band or theater, and I was like, oh, I've already done some theater, I'll just go into that, and then I've kind of just stuck with it since.
I was ready to talk.
Are you? Okay. Well, we can make you talk.
Okay.
I have people that can come in here and make you talk.
I need to resort to that.
There's something about that on my contract.
Well, I started doing theater when I was really young. One of my mom's favorite memories of me is me practicing hailing a taxi with the Sesame Street movie. And she was like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm practicing for when I moved to New York. So you can only go on taxis there. And she was like, okay. Ever since then, I've always loved theater.
My family was not theater people, so I don't know what happened, but I've always loved it, and as soon as I could really get into classes, I started in middle school the first time I took a real theater class, and then I just never stopped. I was fortunate to have really great teachers all throughout middle school and high school who kept kind of my passion alive, and same through college, so.
I have a pretty similar thing to him. My family isn't theater related either. I have mostly military background family, and for me in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My plan was like if I didn't figure it out by the time I graduated, I was just going to go into the Navy, and by the time I became a junior, I had to take an elective, and so I just took theater, and I ended up getting cast in the play, and it took me out of like hanging around with the wrong crowd. I started hanging around with better, kids and stuff like that, and ever since doing that, I don't know, it really it's improved my life, just been more happy, and touching people's lives and stuff like that. Just feels.
Am I the only one that's
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me tell you. When I was 3 years old, I wanted to be Britney Spears. And I still do, but it's not possible.
Is that the bald Britney Spears or the
No,
hair
the pretty
Britney
one with
Spears?
the blonde hair and the second, third album, and now, of course. But I would do anything to be on stage, and I got to play Saturn, which is my favorite planet now, because it has the rings and everything. And just ever since then, I sang a little song. And ever since then, I haven't been able to get off stage. Now that I'm in college, I get to do all the different things, and I feel like I'm being pulled in all different directions with stage managing and acting, and I just really love it all. Like, there's nothing I hate about it.
What's your favorite memory so far? You're very new to your, I won't say young, but new to the career in theater. But so far in your career in theater, what's your favorite moment that you've had either on stage or working with a show?
Wow.
Just always, for me, always that moment when you're in tech week and there's no way it's going to come together and it's going to be the worst show you've ever done and everybody's crying about it, and then you open and it's always fine. Like, even if it's not the best show you've ever done, there's people and they come and they love you still, and it's just that feeling. I like that.
I have to say mine is stage managing one of our shows for our new play festival we do at SFA last year, because like that is like the moment I learned that like where my true passion in theater lies, like, and it lies in new play development and like constantly developing new plays and like keeping theater fresh. And like that, something that's a career path that never occurred to me before we did our first play fest.
I think for me, it's been it's a weird thing, but I'm a student recruiter for our school of theater department. So I recently have been talking to all these like high school seniors and everything, as they're nervous and they're trying to get ready for the college auditions, and like I've been talking to them and trying to make sure they have everything ready. I'm very like nice. I'm like, hey, like we're gonna get through this. Like, don't worry about it. It's gonna be awesome. And get to talk to some of my friends from my hometown about it. And so just getting to like help them and then like the fact that they look up to me for like advice and everything. It's just, it's amazing. And it's like, that is what I want, is the ability to like directly touch people's lives, not just like as being on stage, but like personally, you know, like as a person and as an actor. And I like that.
I think my favorite memory in general is I was in my freshman year. I was in a production of Stage Door, which actually Steven, did your A's in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a small part, but I played a girl named Louise who was from the Midwest, who just wanted to go to New York. And my parents came to see the show, and then after the show, they looked at me and they say, "We get it. You know, we understand now." And that was just a really touching, really great moment to like have the backing of people who love you and can finally understand what you love.
I think my favorite memory, consecutively, I guess, is touching people with the show. I know, like, my pep talk before I go on is I have to tell these people a story. I have to show them what the playwright was talking about, what he wanted to convey, and I really enjoy touching the audience.
For me, I think it was when after my junior year of high school, when I first got into theater, I did a summer workshop at SFA, high school workshop, and at the end of it, they give out like awards and stuff, and at the very end they give out scholarships, and I got a scholarship, and I went up to like I didn't think I was gonna get it, but I did, and I went up on the stage and shook the guy's hand, and I looked in the audience, and my mom she was like in tears, she was crying, and I'd never seen my mom cry like that before, and it was just a big deal. My life really changed after that, because then I realized that I could do something that was positive, you know, and it was acknowledged that, you know, the hard work pays off and stuff like that.
I think for me, I got to be part of a directing festival at my school, and it was a class, but it was so not a class, because I was with a group of people who were just so talented, and it became like more or less a company of artists together, and like my professor told us to prepare an artist statement, which was really unique, and it was nice to be taken seriously. And then when I finally did my performance, I looked, and not only the company that I had come to love over the semester was all there, but all of my friends came to support me. So it was really great, because in high school your parents have to come to you. They don't have to, but they usually do. But so it's nice to be like on my own and still having just so many people who were supportive while I was doing something that I loved. So.
I think for me, it was when I co-directed the show my sophomore year, and 2 weeks before we opened, our set designer quit with nothing done. And so we had to grab set pieces from around university, have actors stay after rehearsal, and they were helping paint sets. And it felt really nice, because for once I felt that I had this real big sense of community. And it's like, though some were acting, some were designing, directing, we all knew that there is an end to achieve, and that we all gathered together to make something successful. And that was really nice.
which is really good. So how many folks want to work in professional theater? Okay. How many are willing to work in nonprofit theater?
I mean, that's professional.
How many people realize there's a lot of nonprofit theaters that are considered professional theaters?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
My favorite theater company is nonprofit and professional.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, everybody looks at each
I have a
other.
question. What's like the most like your favorite performance you've ever seen in your entire life? Your entire life.
Good question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have one. Okay, sorry. Mine is actually at a middle school. I saw the best production I've ever seen in my life is a production of Sweet Nothings in My Ear, which if you don't know it, it is about a deaf family and how, sorry, it's a really good production. It's actually about the mother's deaf, the dad is hearing, and the child is deaf. And yeah, and how they learn how to sign with him, and oh god, it was so good. Anyway, so I have a friend, and we actually helped out because it was for middle school UIL when I played a competition, and they worked all year on this show, and they learned all the sign language. And so the whole show is signed, and in the back people were talking because it was like you get cast as the voice, and then another person is cast as the body. And the
It's
most
reverse captioning.
Yes, and the most powerful moment of theater I've ever experienced was this 12-year-old boy signing to this like smaller child, and like him not being able to understand him, and so him screaming at this child. The child is like, I don't know what you're saying, and the dad like picks up this computer and hurls it at him. There's these 12-year-old children basically conveying this like really powerful message of understanding and love. And oh, I cried. I cried through the whole thing, and it was middle school. So that was the most powerful thing I've ever seen.
Something that really moved you that you've seen a play that just, you know, you've got whether you know, the lights went down, the play went on, the lights came up, you thought it was 5 minutes, and you couldn't wait to get to your feet and applaud for it.
Yeah. I saw a production of Julius Caesar at the Donmar in London when I was there, and it was all women, and it was just the most amazing. Just watching these women play these characters, I remember just sitting there and being like, I could do that. Like it was one of those moments where theater just reconfirmed for me the humanity of all of us, and like there are no limits, and it was like a really hippie experience. But then after it was over, I was just so, I've never experienced anything like that since then.
For me, it's kind of a different way. It's I saw Casa Manana as a apprentice program of Jekyll and Hyde, and a couple of my friends were in it, and you know, my friends I talk about, and they were very like, yeah, like it might be like all right, let's see how it goes. But it was like maybe the day after the opening, and they just did like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they opened for like a weekend or something like that. But it was so different from anything I imagined. It was like a revival. It was like a gothic kind of like punk rock edge to it I had never seen before, and the set was just so minimalistic, and it just had these panels that kind of moved in and out, and just the kids. They were like high schoolers, and some of them were just my age, and but the rock house, one of my friends I met at the show before, I had one of the surrealistic moments because she was singing I think Someone Like You, because she was Lucy, and it was a moment where I thought I was in New York, and it was just me just watching her kind of thing. It was just super surrealistic, just completely just drew me in and just captivated me, and it was just that essence of theater. That it reminded this is what I love about it. It's not just performing, it's not just about just being an audience member, it's just every single aspect of it. And it just, reconfirmed my faith in the art and everything. And I just loved every minute of it. And the funny thing is, the show was not even well put together until the day before, is what I was told. It was just gonna fall apart, and the fact that they just created this marvelous piece of art that people had still been talking about it. My director at high school, we kept talking about it, it was just beautiful. And it was just those moments where you don't know how it's going to turn out. Some little miracle of faith.
Probably mine actually just occurred like a few days ago while I was on spring break. My girlfriend and I went to go see Medea at Dallas Theater Center, and they actually did it not in the Cleta Humphreys Theater, but in the basement of the Cleta Humphreys Theater, which is actually the scene shop. And so like they basically just built these risers and put some like chairs in there. You could still see like pallets and saws, and like the lighting was all with like scoop lights and all this stuff, but like it was just such a like, you were so into it, and it's such like a visceral and raw performance, and like I've never felt so much like a part of the show. And like one of the coolest things they did with it is that they didn't actually like open house until the time the show started. And what they did is like we were all like waiting on the lobby, waiting to like be told we can go in, and a guy comes out and says, okay, can I have all the women line up over here and all the men line up over here? And they took all the women in first, and the women lined the front section because like in Medea, the chorus is the women of Corinth. So they basically turned all the like women seeing the show into the chorus. And there was like a one woman like chorus speaking all like chorus lines, and she like basically before the men could even enter, like all the women were in their seats, and she was like leading them in a chant and then like joined them in the seats. So as the men walked in, like all the women were like doing this chant, and as they were doing this chant, the nurse like walked in and like was singing, and like it was just such an awesome performance. It was amazing.
Well, okay, so I guess I'll talk about mine. Mine's not nearly as, miraculous. I don't. Well, to me it was. To me it was just. It was To Kill a Mockingbird. We did it civil rep, and I was supposed to read it in high school, but I just something I did. I wasn't at school when we were supposed to read it, and so I never did. I never read it. I never saw the movie. Never had any. I didn't even know what it was about at all. And a lot of people, they would find that out and be like, what, you've never, how do you not know this timeless story, this classic? And I was like, I don't, and people would suggest me to read it, but I was like, no, I want to wait until the performance, and I want to go see it so I can see, my friends are in it and stuff, and just watch it for, what it is. And the director who did it, he focused so much on what I was told on the accuracy of the period, and every movement was specific. Everything was so specific, down to we were told that there was a part where where Atticus is sitting in the jail, and the mob comes in or whatever. There was a light he had on stage with him, and just in case if the light were to go out, there was a member backstage that was costumed ready to go replace it or whatever. That's how he was super in depth. The guy who what's the racist Bob Ewell? Yeah, Bob Ewell. He had a cup of dirt, real dirt that he would put on his face, because he's a dirty guy. And I just remember seeing it. I saw it twice, and the second time the first time I was in the balcony, and I loved it. And so I saw it again, and when I saw it the second time, that was the first time I ever cried in theater. Was at the very, very end where he has that moment with Scout. Atticus and Scout are talking, and he's telling her about you should never judge other people. It was just, for me, I never teared up in anything except that, and it blew me away.
I didn't know Mockingbird affected you that strongly. Awesome.
Yeah, I did. I didn't tell a lot of people, but now we all know.
Now the whole world knows it's a movie on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, do you have friends or maybe even family members that don't understand live theater and the difference? Because I know I have no folks say, why would I want to go set and watch a bunch of amateurs when I can go see a movie?
Yeah.
Do you see a difference between movies and live theater? And
yes.
Okay. I know. I'm actually asking the choir here, but your perception individually, what do you think is the difference between going and seeing a movie and the experience of the movie and the experience of watching a live performance?
There's something that you can't really explain about, about the intimacy between the real life relationships and connections that you're witnessing in front of you. Because I feel on the screen they rehearse this constantly, and they're perfecting the shot and they're making sure that everything's been going over and over again. And yes, in theater we rehearse it and everything. But when it's just all strung together, you're just kind of more, swept into this tale. And I know that our generation is kind of bad at this, and I don't think we have the attention span to sit through a 2.5 hour live performance, which is a shame, really. But it's just that it's hard to explain.
Can I jump in on that? I want to piggyback off that because what you're saying is exactly what Lisa Dalton, she did a workshop here this morning. She brought up how she said something that really like affected me. That was perfect the way she worded it. I can't do it justice, but basically what it is she's talking about plucking like your heartstrings and how you're plucking your heartstring and feeling those real emotional like feelings as you pursue your objectives. And she said if you had a bunch of like violins in the room and you were to pluck on the E string or whatever, all the other E strings in the room would resonate and they would vibrate like a smaller amount. And that's exactly what theater is, live theater is, because we're plucking our heartstring truthfully in the moment in front of these people, like directly in front of them, and they too, as a result, are like feeling that as well. It's like your heart field, your heart brings out a field. It's kind of like
it's like resonation kind of
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
It's just
Mirror
the
neurons.
yeah. See, I don't know what it is honestly, because I'm trying to figure out because I know that like film like it can still have that ways.
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
Like it's still like resonating, but there's nothing like live theater.
Seeing it in person.
Yeah, and I think it's the moments that every performance is different. So
Yeah.
when you on Friday night with all of us going, like it's never going to be the same Saturday, Sunday, or Monday.
Or
so
for a matinee,
I think it's so special because you get those moments and they're happening in front of you, and you're the only one in that room that's going to get to experience that for that night. I think it's so special as comparison to a movie.
I think for me, the question is always like, which is better, TV or movies or plays? And they're all so different that there's no point in saying which one's better. I think they're just very different. And I think one of the things that I really like the concept is just the concept of breath. And when you're in, especially, my favorite theater is the bare bones, like black box studio. They're like right up, like not the big proscenium musicals, but just when you're just sharing breath with them. And there's like an energy that you share just because you're both human beings and you're both sharing this experience together, because like you said, it's never going to happen again exactly the same way. It's kind of unique to this group of people, and that's something you can't replicate on the screen, and you can't, I don't know, it's just different. And I think people are always going to be attracted to that and are going to get that experience, and that's why theater is oldest art form alive.
No, I like that because like if you see the same movie over and over again, it's still gonna be the same movie. But if you see the same show like at different theaters, different locations, even at the same theater, it's a different experience each and every time.
And movies are they're pretty. Movies are pretty and clean and polished, and that's not why I see art. I see art to see something raw and and something so like. We all just already said it. Something that's so human that I can feel and I can feel movies, but it's not the same.
And in a movie, the scenes really belong to the director. It's their ideas getting pushed on. But in live theater, it's really the audience that controls what the actors are doing. If they're laughing, we're gonna know that it's gonna
Audience
be
loop feedback.
exactly. So it belongs more to the audience in live theater.
Live theater is more of a collaboration. Because like you said, it's like more of the director's vision for film, like the screenwriter and everything. Theater, it's the actors, it's the director, it's the audience, and they're all like moving together to weave this kind of story and to make everyone feel something.
Yeah, it's a really good. There's actually completely lost my train of thought.
I'm so passionate.
I had something and I forgot.
Again, it's a good try. It's a good try.
I don't even.
Well, as Will Rogers once said, even if you're on the right track, you're going to get run over if you're not moving.
Oh no, I remember what I was gonna say now. Okay. Okay. As long as you keep moving. God, I forgot it. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's different. Okay, from like an actor's, but from an audience perspective, totally get what you're saying. From an actor's perspective, though, doing having done films in college and stuff, I think. And I'm not sure how I've never done a professional film, so I'm sure every process is different. But from what I've experienced, it's you read for the role, you get the script, you read for the role, and you get cast. When you go on the set, I mean, it's really dependent on you as the actor how much that you're gonna go over what you're gonna do, because you could just show up and not. Because I've shown up to films with you're not off book, but you relatively know it well enough that you can put it down and you can do it. But with theater, you have a lot of time. I mean, well, more time. So usually, I think, you know, to really sit in rehearsals, like you run the moments over and over again, and you're not filming or anything. You're not like trying to get that one take so we can move on. We got to wait for the sun, or we have all the variables of the sound, and it has to be right in that moment. You know, people. But for us, it's like, okay, we can, like, the designers can go home, everyone can go home for that day, but we can sit, a director and actor and or an ensemble, and sit and talk for hours about, you know, about just the play. You know, there's some processes, some rehearsal processes where you leave and you're like, I remember, you know, we was doing a play and I would leave, still be talking to the director, and we would stand outside the theater and we would just get caught in a conversation. We'd look at our watch and realize it's 2 hours since we got out of rehearsal. We're still talking about the play, you know. And I'm sure that could happen with film. I wouldn't say that it couldn't, but I've yet to experience that kind of that passion, like that true like hardcore passion.
I think also, like, with theater, I think you guys will all agree, it's more about the experience than it is the final product. For me, I much more enjoy working on a show than just sitting and watching a show for an hour, which is not true in movies, I think. Not that you don't enjoy working on a movie, but it's a very different process. And so I think those of us who are involved on any part of theater, whether it is directing or acting or anything else, you're doing it because you love the whole process. And then the show at the end is kind of the final payoff, but it's also like not even that important at the end of the day.
No.
So
It's the journey.
It's the journey. Voyager term there. Star Trek Voyager. But most of you weren't old enough to watch it when it was actually on the air. It's a shame. But it's on reruns. It's on Netflix.
I was watching it.
Yeah, I'm a big Trekkie. I kind of said. I watched it in prime time when it was on NBC. I was in high school.
That's awesome.
Back there. What I would like to, if I could keep you for about another 20 minutes, I promise I'll have you on your own by 1 o'clock in the morning. Take another short break. I want to change the tape, and I want to talk to you and be thinking about the future of theater. Where do you think live theater is going? Where's your generation going to take live theater? You know, shows like, you know, my generation had Hair, Old County.
Oh yeah.
Equus, some of those cutting edge things. Are we going to continue having those cutting edge things? Or are we going to have more traditional theaters, the Noel Cowards, the Neil Simons? And where do you think it's going? And also, and everybody at this conference that works with the theater company is concerned about how do we get young people involved? How do we get more men involved? Because you can do a casting call in community theater. 4 parts for men, 40 parts for women. You'll have 400 women show up and 1 guy for auditions. So, you know, do you have any ideas on, you know, because you're going to be out of college soon, you're going to be out in the world, you're going to be working these issues. Do you have any ideas on that, and what's your perspective? You know, where's theater, professional theater and amateur theater, where's it going over the next 20 years during your career? And how do we get more people involved and diversify it, sort of thing? So one thing that's challenging and is discussed a lot at the TNT conferences is how do we get more of our community involved in our theater, either as an audience member, on stage. You know, one of the big challenges, especially when you do an audition, is getting men to come and audition. For some reason, if you know, teenage guys will go audition for a play if they got the crush on the girl that they think is going to get the lead. But how do you equate that into the adult roles, where you get more men to show up for auditions? And then how do you get more folks in that 20 to 40 year old range to come be in the audience?
The one thing I can that pops out at me is doing shows that would interest men to start their introduction to theater, so they can realize oh, theater just isn't this stuffy thing. And realizing what comes to mind is an article that the American Theater magazine that Theater Communications Group runs. They did an article about how there's all these shows that are either being produced currently or are about to be produced that are about football. Dallas Theater Center is about to do Colossal.
He's from our school.
Yeah, and I've got to read the show this summer. It's this amazing show, and it's all about this football player. And I mean, the state, Dallas Theater Center is turning the Wiley Theater into a football field with scoreboard, Instead of an intermission, there's a halftime show with like a full drum line, and I feel like that's gonna get a lot more men than many shows do. So I feel like if you can find a show that is like about topics that would really interest men, to get that to be their introduction to theater, they can keep coming in from that because they'll realize that theater isn't what they thought it was.
Well, do you find, in your experience, within your age group and your demographics, that there's a lot of folks that think if you go to the theater, put on a coat and a tie and high heels and tea-length dress, that's how you go to the theater, or do they understand that it's, in my experience, it's truly more come as you are, like going to the movie house.
Yeah.
You find that where folks are intimidated about coming to a live show?
I feel like that can be true sometimes. I know that like when it's like a prank kind of like thing, or like I feel like I'm gonna be judged for it mostly. But like me and a friend, like we did like shows in high school. We're like, hey, let's go to this like really small community theater, but let's dress up to the nines. And we had like suits and everything. And so we looked ridiculous. People were like, had they never been to a show before? We just wanted to look good, which we did. But like, I kind of get where that's saying where like some people, I guess, there's like a certain etiquette what to do, but like it's different because like for each theater there's like a different like, you know, casual look. Like if I went to like a community theater, like I probably wear like, you know, jeans, like a nice button down kind of thing. But I went to Bass Hall recently, and I wore like my nice like gray like slacks and like a really nice button down and a sweater and a tie and everything. And so I don't know, there's certain levels, and I feel like that's different for like a lot of people. I know that like when we do like our cornerstone productions at AC, which is like the freshmen have to go see it, like some people could just go come as you are, and some people just go like full and tie and like and everything. And so I think that like with like I think it's with our schools, I think that there's like we're starting to downgrade like, a lot of like the arts, and so that like some of the students just don't have as much like connection with it, and like I feel like sometimes it's the imagination kind of needs to get itself. So I don't know. It's just kind of like hard to really like explain because I feel like to that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, okay, you just become managing director of a community theater group, and you're going to put on Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. You need football players. How do you get guys to come out and audition for that?
New Year's high schools.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with a show like that, you need a couple guys to stand out and be like awesome singers. The rest just like sing in like a chorus and don't have to have that great of voices. So go like recruit the local football team. Yeah. Say that, you know, we're doing the show at the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. You get to play a football player, and you get to see women half dressed. Yeah. You're gonna get guys to come on.
I would think the women half dressed parts is a good draw for the guys, but you know, you're doing a show that requires a lot of men where the women aren't half dressed, or 12 angry men.
I think it's a huge matter of just getting them, like, for lack of better terms, getting them really hyped up about it. You know, just it's a matter, I think, of like. Because I've gotten some of my friends to come to theater auditions when I was in high school, because I remember my best friend in high school, he did a play, his first play he did this, Little Abner, and he like didn't like it at all. He hated it and he was like, it's not me. He was like, I don't like the style. He just wasn't into it, you know. And it turned him away from theater. He didn't like theater because of that. And so I remember like I was like, well, you know, we're doing Footloose. And he's like, I don't want to do Footloose. And you know, Footloose, you know, it's not my favorite musical, but I was like really wanted him to come to audition. So I was just like, oh well, it's awesome, man. It's about this town, like, you know. And I presented it to him in such a way that he was like, well, you make it sound really cool when he came to the audition. And I think it's just really a matter of like catering to taste, like you said about it's, you know, like having someone's first experience in theater. Because like when I really first got into theater, it was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and I didn't know plays were like that. Like it really drew me because like, the Ken Casey novel and all that. And I think whenever you can like find a show, or even if it's not a show that you think you would be super interested in, if you can just like look through it and find, okay, you know, what do I love about this show? How can I make this seem appealing to people? Because you know people would like it if they just were brought into it in the right way. Because if you tell them, if you're like, oh, we're gonna do this show, you might not like it, but you know, then they're gonna be like, oh, well, they're already gonna think they're not gonna like it, or they're gonna assume if you know, if we say we're doing The Importance of Being Earnest, they're gonna be like, oh, it's boring old classic comedy or whatever, you know. But if you're like, well, we're doing Importance of Being Earnest and we're gonna have this, or we're gonna, you know, you interest them in some kind of you got to hook them in some kind of way. I think it's just a matter of also being very passionate when you talk to them. Word of mouth.
It's like marketing to like a different like audience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coming from a publicity and marketing standpoint,
Yeah.
which is what I want to do. It really stems on changing the way people think about theater
Yes.
and how they think about auditions.
Absolutely.
And so that's why with our new generation, social media has become a huge way to promote not only auditions, but also like shows. And if you can present by just focusing on the problem of how to get them in to auditions for the show or to see the theater, it's focusing on, what is the show about? How can you spin this show, even if it's a, no cower piece? How can you spin this show to make it look like this is not some stuffy, it's a stuffy British comedy, but like that's not.
It's no coward.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not.
There's great humor in it though. That's
Yeah.
and if you can get them with the, oh well, you like Doctor Who, you like that British humor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe that's.
You have to make people understand that that's not the experience that you're going to get. That if you, and I think what you're talking about earlier, it starts in our schools. It starts in how we view the arts as children. I mean, if you can get children, my sister was in a play, she was a donkey. Like I feel like, and you were Saturn. I feel like if we can get.
That was a spider.
You were a spider. I mean, I feel like if we can get children, especially men, I mean, just from a young age, like we saw that children's production the other day. These
so good.
hundreds of kids just passionate about theater, the same passion, that we feel, we're 20, 19 years old, 21, however old we're And
You're 21, there's a beer on that back table, somebody there's 21.
Right. It just,
And we did card him in case somebody from TABC is listening.
So I think it just stems from and this actually goes forward into what theater is going to be. And I feel like in order to keep our profession thriving, I mean, it's always going to thrive, but it cannot be the same. We have to start moving towards younger people in a different generation, in a different way that we view and publicize and produce theater.
I think another thing is you have to highlight theater's differences, because even if you do make a play about football or a play about an action movie, whatever, people can still just go see an action movie instead, and that's so way easier. They can still just go to a football game or watch a football game on TV and not even have to put fans on. I mean, so you have to say like, what am I getting out of this that's different? So for example, I know that's why Shakespeare in the Park is always such a popular thing in multiple cities, because you can go, you can have a picnic, you sit outside, and sometimes they have like dancers or it's like interactive, and it's just like things that you can't get elsewhere. We have to highlight those things, and we have to kind of pull them out. So it's still difficult. But like it's Shakespeare, and a lot of people are very afraid of Shakespeare, but when you put it in a park, so it is very casual, you don't have to dress up, it's outside, you can sit in a blanket, then people are no longer kind of afraid of it, and once they start coming to things like that, then you can promote, we also have these other shows, and they're like, wow, maybe theater is kind of cool, maybe theater isn't what I thought it was, not like an opera, or whatever, so you just kind of have to highlight those differences, I think.
I think we're already moving towards that with plays like, we have plays like American Idiot now, which is a Green Day-based musical, and we also have interactive shows now, like these are all musicals, but like the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, like stuff that like if you're in the audience, you can't stop it, like you can't not be involved.
And theater is so word of mouth that if someone goes and sees a show like that and they really enjoyed it and got that unique experience, they're gonna tell their friends. And they're gonna, if your friend told you to go see a play, you're more likely to see it than if you just saw
like an advertisement.
Yeah, you saw a tweet about it.
Yeah.
So I mean, theater is so community based that we have to play up our strengths.
Yeah.
And also things like children's theater. If you do like what we did this past week, is we had one children's theater show, and so we had a lot of people come, and then while they're there, you can kind of tell them about other things that are happening. So you get them in there because they're kids on stage, so they have to be there, and then that's kind of like opening up the channel for them to explore other sides of theater. So.
I think Shelby, right? That's my glasses, right? Shelby mentioned, keeping theater moving forward. In your perspective, I'm not talking to Neil Simon here, Noel Coward. I'm talking college kids, college young adults. About where do you think theater is now? Where do you think it's going, and where do you think it should go if it's different than what it is? Is there anything that you think theater has pushed the edge over the cliff that went too far? Is there a show that you're aware of or you've seen that you think that's too far over the edge?
Spider-Man.
I feel like theater's all about exploration, so I don't really feel like there's always over the edge unless you're straight up harming someone's basic human rights on stage. But I feel like in the direction where we're going, I had a history teacher who just kept saying over and over, history repeats itself. Mm-hmm. And for some reason that really stuck with me. And I know it's not always the same pattern and everything, but I feel like theater is kind of headed in towards that direction. That although we've started to get into this I know started with here contemporary musical kind of thing, and it started this burst of glory, but I feel like we're kind of settling to a more I guess musical film adaptations, which is kind of a low right now, and people aren't really going to like it. And now we're starting to see a peak of original work where you're seeing Gentleman's Guide and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so as I feel like there's going to be a certain peak to where it's going to be coming to more of a classical kind of sound, and it's just going to be a continuous circle. And I hope that with that we're just exploring different work in different ways to express ourselves. And so that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think if you want to see a direction that theater's gonna be going in the future, the show you can look at right now is Hamilton. Mm-hmm. Hamilton is blowing up right now, and it's because it's so different than anything we've seen, and it shows how the style of theater, especially that our age group is into, it's moving in a less traditional direction. Because Hamilton is the show, it's about Alexander Hamilton and the founding fathers, but it's a hip hop musical done by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who also did In the Heights, and it's completely untraditional racial casting. The only white guy in the show is the guy who plays King George. Everybody else, all the founding fathers, are played by Hispanics and African Americans. And my favorite thing is that their costumes, they're wearing the period costumes, but they don't have powdered wigs or anything. Some of them have afros or just any random style of hair that it's just whatever their normal hairstyle is. But it's just so you're seeing more of non-traditional movements, especially in casting. I was talking to my the head of our department, Professor Shattuck, about Hamilton. He brought up a production of The Glass Menagerie, where it's I can't think of the character names, but the mom and the brother, Amanda and Tom were white, and Laura was played by an African American. So it's we're especially moving towards a age of multicultural casting, and especially race-blind casting.
And I think also the use of media as spectacle, I think, in theaters is huge right now, especially just using media and using visual works and projectors. If those aren't being used these days, it's kind of not as aesthetically appealing, I think. Especially at UT, I know a lot of our straight plays, since a lot of people don't go to those works because they commonly like the musicals better, we started to incorporate more interdisciplinary devices, especially through media, to kind of attract people to go to see those straight plays. So they're not as boring to the common audience, and they're kind of more aesthetically appealing.
I think
How many here have seen Pillow Man?
Yeah.
And the language, the violence?
Yeah.
Do you think we're moving it all past shock theater? We've kind of done that now. I mean, with all the language and all the
I think we moved past maybe a peak of it, but that's something that's never going to go away.
No, but I mean, there for a while that seemed like everything that was coming out was how many times can we incorporate the F word into a play?
Yeah.
And how many times, and now it's
And what I was going to say is that I think we're having to be more creative. Every generation has to be creative in their own way. And for that generation, generation of theater, it was the shock value. It was the F words, it was the violence. With hair and equus, it was nudity. That was the big thing. But now, so violence has been done, nudity has been done. What else is there? There's racial things we can explore. There's different, I think gender is a big topic that's coming up, and sexuality in a different way. Sexuality now is a different kind of concept than it was even 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have to kind of keep adapting to those things, and that's where we turn our creative minds. And I think that's where theater is headed.
Yeah.
No, I like what I wanted to say. I've got like 4 things I want to incorporate. So like he brought up Shakespeare earlier. I think that's awesome because like Shakespeare's timeless. Shakespeare's not going to go anywhere, and that's another thing we have to think about because yes, there's all these awesome new plays that are coming out. We have moved past the shock factor and like the nudity. We're kind of used to it. We're desensitized in a way, but and it's I think like the controversial topics of our generation today, we can all agree are gay marriage, gun control, and the illegality of marijuana. Like those are like the top 3 like big abortion and another the portrayal of gender roles in the media and race, yeah, exactly. But and that's it. I think that like becoming more creative with timeless classics like Shakespeare, bringing in spectacle, doing things like that where you incorporate these contemporary things that we can all relate to and that we love to see with these classics that we can always relate to because those classics are, I mean, they're written like 400, 500 years ago, by humans made up of the same molecules basically that we are made up of today. And so the problems that they face in their lives, while they're very much human issues that we're always going to be dealing with all the time, love, loss, betrayal, all of those things. And I think, yes, bringing it trying to bring it to a younger audience, or bring it to men, you can't just throw in all the F-bombs and all the nudity. It's a matter of not just doing it just because it's controversial, or trying to make a point. It's more of like the point is there. We all are thinking the same thing. We all want the same thing. Most of us, It's a matter of like artfully and poetically, like crafting that to our generation. I think devised work becoming huge because it's like allows us as performers, as artists, to really take control of our work and really make it our own. And I think making the work your own and taking control of it and all those things, it makes you love it, makes you super passionate about it. It plucks your heartstring big time, and the audience and the producers and designers, everybody, feels it. It's like a huge thing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Keenan. Like I was thinking about how while we're seeing all these new plays and all these new playwrights come out, we're taking Shakespeare, and I've seen so much theater now that's taking roots in Commedia dell'arte,
Yes.
which is from hundreds of years ago. But we are taking this like very deep root of theater and bringing it back and making it our own. We are taking like our generation, what the issues that we're dealing with right now, and we're putting it in these old style of theater, and it's clicking with everyone. And that's why I think theater's never going to die, because even if we don't produce any new plays anymore, the generation 100 years from now is not going to be anything like us. And then they're going to be able to take stuff we've done now, stuff that happened 100 years before us, and make it their own.
Yeah.
And that it's very cyclical that way. And so that's where I think theater's going. Where, we were talking about earlier.
Continuous kind of
It's going to
cycle.
keep going. And while new things like devised work and while new things are going to keep popping up, stuff that we can't even think about right now. Yeah, it's incredibly cyclical.
Well, I think it's interesting you talk about, the 3 big issues: gun control, abortion, race relations. I think there was another one.
Gay marriage.
Gay marriage.
Gay marriage. I'm a child. I grew up in the '60s. If you ever watched Wonder Years with reruns, I was that Arnold. Okay, that was my junior high school experience. Was the '60s. Our biggest issues in the '60s was abortion, gays. We didn't call them gays back then. We had a more now politically incorrect phrase for them. Drugs was a big deal because the hippie generation was still blowing and going strong in those days. So I hear the same issue, race relations, especially we were in the middle of the civil rights movement. When I was in junior high and high school. So 40 years later, maybe 50, many years later, there's still those same issues. And you're all theater students. You've studied plays. I'm sure you've studied plays like Hair, Oh Calcutta, Jesus Christ Superstar that came out during that era. They did a remake of Shakespeare and put it in Los Angeles, in the hoods of Los Angeles. They made a movie about it a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was
yeah.
originally a play,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
dealing with those same issues. In your studies of theater, do you see those same issues that some of the things Shakespeare dealt with? In Othello, the unfaithful wife, you know, and Julius Caesar, betrayal, and assassinations and war.
Political intrigue.
Political intrigue and stuff. Do you see those themes carrying through, just packaged,
absolutely.
just packaged in a new way?
It's just, you know, humanity and our, I guess, part of it, our sinfulness and our, like, the mistakes that we make, which is the betrayal, the unfaithfulness. And, like, those are just things that we all just deal with, like, either they are in little ways or in big ways. We are just impacted by the stories, and we're just enthralled to wanting to, like, seek salvation for that character. And so I feel like, even like with like, you know, Greek times, it's just still giving an overarching theme like throughout the rest of history. It's just always going to be one of those things.
Go ahead.
I keep losing my train of thought. It's like killing me so bad. I know. I just theater. Oh, I know. I remembered it. Okay, so here we go. Theater. Like when people go to the theater, you know, you go to the theater. People go to the theater to see really the reflection of what we're all already thinking. The elephants in the room. It's like that's what the theater is. It's like we're taking all these issues. Shakespeare did the same thing. I mean, it was already happening. He didn't create the betrayal of the wife. He didn't create political entry, but he commented on those. And it was that first art form really that was like a platform for what are we all thinking. We can finally say it, because I mean with music it's really very, very much subjective. You know, if you think about it, you know, because it's whatever you take from it. Theater, I feel like, I mean, as a whole, is just whenever you're doing a play that's commenting on these huge issues, and it's got the stakes of basically an epic, you know, the audience relating to that, it changes the way that they think. I mean, after they leave the show, after I left To Kill a Mockingbird, I was like, I'm never gonna judge anyone. I mean, of course it's impossible, but still, it's like, it really affected me, and it changed the way that I thought. Like, and that is at its core the purpose, I believe, of the theater, is to change people, to change the way that they think. It's for them to transcend really their old mindsets of you know, we've all got like ill behaviors, or you know, like we're all ignorant in some way to something. And theater is that one place that you could see that one play that just clicks for you, and you're no longer a bigot, you know, or whatever. You're just, because you've seen other human beings, you've related to them, and you know, and it's
Or at least it opened you up to at least considering.
Yeah, exactly. Considering it.
Because somebody said, I'm going to boggle it, and I can't remember who said it, but it was one of those things. The way you can tell a good play is that the audience that leaves the theater is different than the audience that enters.
Yes. To be able to, I have a professor who she says really clicked for me one day in acting. She was like, "We're not putting on real life. This is not us putting on real life. We're poeticizing real life."
I don't want realism, I want magic.
Yes, exactly. And if you don't do that, you know, if you're too much trying to push a social issue, be a politician. You're trying to push entertainment too much. You don't want to say anything, but just, you know, be a dancer. You know, I mean, but like our professor, that same professor, she's always saying, you know, if you're not gonna take it seriously, you're not gonna do it. Like, if you're not gonna put in the effort to doing it beautifully and like having some kind of strong foundation of like a really big political or social issue that we have, then you're basically shaming 2,000 years of theater. And that's, she always says that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think we already have shows that are entertaining and doing social
awareness.
Yeah, social awareness, like the Laramie Project.
Yes.
Good Morning Soldier, or Welcome Back Soldier, Welcome Home Soldier. About the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like those shows are the most like impactful. Like
Yes.
you'll come from, I don't know, Hello Dolly, and feeling different, and that will impact you, but it will not impact you the same way as Chairs will,
Yeah.
or the learning project.
Yeah.
And I think though we established that theater is used as entertainment and a way to be socially aware of
Sure.
events and things, I do not think theater should be sold to the community as a social worker.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
yeah, it needs to be, it's a place for entertainment and then you also could learn something from it. I don't think theater is should be a place just
Right.
to learn something. That's not what the theater is. It's not
Well,
used as social
that's because I've seen shows that way, it was just, you could tell, it was in your face, you've got to believe what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Whereas To Kill a Mockingbird brought up the thing about racial injustice in the 20s and the structure of the South in the 20s, but it didn't slap you.
Yeah,
It didn't
it
slap you
told
in the face.
story instead of trying to just push a social issue.
Yeah.
It told.
But by
your
telling that story, by telling that story though, it changes
Yes,
attitudes.
exactly.
But I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I really do. I look forward on YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter. I'll post it up there. I'm Jim Weed, Texas. And it's Jim Weed, Texas on Twitter.
Got it.
Or if you go to Facebook and punch in Jim Weed in Texas, it'll pop up. And if you go to YouTube and punch in my name, there's a subscription thing that pops up there that's got some other TNT stuff on it, some other videos that I've done. But would anybody like to add anything else? Any great words of wisdom? This is going to be on the internet forever. Your great-grandchildren are going to see this.
Can I cap it off?
Just go.
Yes.
Keenan, just
Is that
go.
the whole thing?
I think so, yes.
Okay. All the world is a stage. The men and women here.
Shakespeare.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
TNT.
We- we-
TNT.